I'm gonna show you something beautiful.
Oh, Tommy. This is your Ninth Symphony. Oh, what a masterpiece. Look at that. This is your legacy. A new generation of weapons with this at its heart.
Starting with number 10, Ironmonger. The negatives that could be held against him are the facts that he is very much a by-the-numbers, just generic bad guy. His motivation is the same as any power-hungry, mustache-twirling villain we've seen in other films before. And although Jeff Bridges does elevate that, it is all about, I like money, I like power. The character at times does tend to go a little bit over the top at times in the film, and if you're not into that, I understand why that would really bother you. But if we're being honest, the main culprit for why it made this list is the Ironmonger suit himself. Obadiah Stane is actually fine. It's when he gets into that Ironmonger suit that you're like, oh, you're just the same as your enemy Tony Stark, have the same powers, except you're bigger, heavier, dumber, and just plain more awkward. In the end, Obadiah was a fine character that would have been so much better if he never had that final fight in the Ironmonger suit.
It's the order to open fire.
Fool! You cannot control the power you hold. You will burn!
I already have.
Coming in at number 9, Red Skull. So Red Skull is a one-note villain. He comes off a bit too much like his character from the comic book pages. Now I get that he was created during a specific time period, but apart from that as an excuse, he comes off as a bit cartoonish and at times it just doesn't work. In fact, when you think about it, it added to the negative qualities of the film. For someone that is supposed to be a major leader in the Nazi party, he never felt quite intimidating. Even the final battle between him and Captain America was just underwhelming. If it wasn't for Hugo Weaving elevating the material on the page, who knows how far down this list Red Skull would have fallen.
Because of you, you've wounded me. I give you full marks for that. But, like the men said, what doesn't kill you just makes me stronger.
Coming in at number 8, Ultron. So the final character that will appear on both lists is Ultron, who is meant to be an unfathomable, intelligent AI. The problem is that he goes about it in the dumbest, most convoluted fashion you've ever seen. The trailers made him out to be this cold, ruthless villain, but he never really reached anything close to what we imagined he could be. Ultron is wasted in CGI battle after CGI battle after guess what? CGI battle. We're supposed to believe that the most intelligent thing in the entire world came up with a plan of lifting a giant city and hurling it into the earth as a way to destroy humanity. I felt there were plenty of more plausible and better ways that he would have gone about destroying humanity. This throw big boulder into earth seems like something the Hulk would do, not somebody that's supposed to have supreme intelligence.
Ooh, is that hot in there? Stuck? You feel a little stuck? Like a little turtle? Cooking in his little turtle soup?
Tony.
She's watching. I think you should close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. You don't want to see this.
Coming in at number 7, Aldrich Killian. The most memorable villain in Iron Man 3 isn't even a true villain. Some might say that the fake out itself is the actual true villain of the film. Throughout the film, you can see why Killian hates Tony Stark, but you never really get his whole solid motivation for this ultimate evil plan of destroying humanity. Without a logical plan, everything he does, from blowing up Stark's security guard or creating an army of exploding super soldiers, or for kidnapping the President of the United States for absolutely no reason, none of it actually makes a lick of sense. His only redeeming factor is the Mandarin twist. To create a fictional terrorist people can fear while also getting in a fight with Iron Man is something that could have been really special. But in the end, without a solid plan, he just comes off as kinda blah.
Your daughter made this mess, and yet you summon me.
I would lower my voice, accuser.
First, she lost a battle with some primitive.
Thanos put Gamora under your charge.
Then she was apprehended by the Nova Corps.
You are the one here with nothing to show for it.
Your sources say that she meant to betray us the whole time.
Now your turn! I reveal!
Coming in at number 6, Ronan the Accuser. Guardians of the Galaxy is considered to be one of the best MCU films, but it's a credit to the film itself as a whole that it was able to do that with such a weak villain. In a movie as fun and vibrant as Guardians of the Galaxy, it's a shame that their villain was so bland. Lee Pace does the best he can as a convincing evil tyrant, but he's also pretty much just your standard monologuing alien bad guy. He does have moments of good dialogue and evil intentions, but he turns back into the ultimate cliche villain pretty quickly. There was an interesting opportunity to carve out an interesting side story with Ronan's relationship with Thanos, whom he ultimately betrays, but we just never see any of it. And for as much as we love the ending of Guardians of the Galaxy, he goes out to a bunch of people distracting him by dance. It fits the movie, but it doesn't make you any stronger. You're still weak.
No, not that book. That book promises eternity but fails to deliver.
The afterlife is...
Afterlife is a contradiction. There is no afterlife. And I can prove it to you.
Coming in at number 5, Kaecilius. So deep down, the main problem here is that he doesn't really have a single original thought in his head. You know a villain is bad when Mads Mikkelsen looks like he's just kind of going through the motions. His motives are actually ones that make sense, and they're ones that are genuinely interesting. And Mikkelsen does have moments in the film that elevate the role. It's just that there is not much for our villain to do. A few pretty phenomenal fight scenes, sure, and things that sound like they could have made a really interesting arc, but nothing is ever really fleshed out as much as you want it to. When he does show up, it never feels like a threat. He comes off more like an annoying henchman. He appears, you watch a cool fight, Doctor Strange wins, move on. Rinse, repeat. Now while he does raise the stakes later on with an aggressive act of evil, the end of the movie unfolds to reveal he is indeed completely and utterly insignificant.
I always suspected you had a suit stored away somewhere, which begs the question, who is the new Ant-Man? Who is the man that my beloved mentor trusted even more than me? Scott Lang, the martyr who took on the system and paid the price.
Coming in at number 4, Darren Cross. The worst villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe tend to be dark reflections of their nemesis. The Yellowjacket, aka Darren Cross, is yet another mirroring villain that has the same powers as our hero, making him far more boring than interesting. He's another jealous corporate CEO type who feels that a paternal scientific genius should have paid him more attention. He started out okay. He started out pretty evil and insane and kind of just stayed that way throughout the film. Never really had an arc that went anywhere. He was just kind of a dick and kind of evil and wanted more attention. While his final fight with Ant-Man is one of the movie's best moments and one of the cooler fight scenes in the entire MCU, the Yellowjacket is yet another remarkably unimpressive MCU villain.
Remember me!
Coming in at number 3, Abomination. The Incredible Hulk is a film most don't acknowledge but think it's a perfectly decent comic book movie. And I even feel that Tim Roth gives a pretty good performance as an over-the-hill military operative who just wants to be able to keep kicking ass. And while Abomination is a pretty good foil for the Hulk, he's a villain of very limited scope. No reasoning for wanting to beat up the Hulk, no reasoning for being evil, he's just evil. There are some really fun action moments with Tim Roth before he turns into the Abomination, but he really only exists in the film to justify a big third act. You don't care what his motives are. You know that at the end it's just going to be a big CGI battle that at this point doesn't really even hold up. Besides being something the Hulk can punch, there is no substance here. Coming in at number 2, Whiplash. Ivan Vanko, aka Whiplash, throughout the film is a mumbling mess. And actually, Mickey Rourke's performance is so stilted and odd that Vanko just comes off as one big joke, almost like he's in an entirely different movie. Half the time, I couldn't understand what he was saying. I'm not gonna lie, the scene where Whiplash crashes into Iron Man during the Monaco Historic Grand Prix is pretty cool. And I'll say Rourke tried his best, and I guess he was told to do what he was doing, but the script is so bad and it hindered any sort of development for the character. And despite 1 or 2 great moments in battle at the end, Vanko is killed off in disappointing fashion soon after he enters the fight with Iron Man and War Machine. Also, can we talk about the bird? What was the point of the bird? Why have the bird?
Al ayafihi velemefe, rashitente ayafanta.
Coming in at number 1, Malekith. I mean, on paper, Malekith could have been a really cool villain, wanting revenge on Thor's family for ancient wrongs. He could have been so much more. Instead, he is half-baked to say the least, and is obviously an afterthought when it comes to the story. Malekith is about as forgettable a bad guy as they come. And as a character, he's not on screen that often. When he is on screen, it's the most boring thing you can watch. He doesn't add anything to it. He brings no fear. What's the point of his character? We get no sort of tragedy or emotion from the character. He just kind of walks and shows up and fights. And there's some cool teleporting stuff, but yeah, what's the point? While other villains have fallen into the same traps, what happens with Malekith is that he had nothing interesting to say or do. And he never really forged a meaningful relationship with our film's protagonist Thor. Malekith is just that character that you're just kind of like, why? Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, my top 10 worst Marvel villains in the MCU. Hopefully you guys like the new format. Hopefully you guys like the fact that there's no real intro this time. It goes right into the top 10. All the stuff I'm leaving is for the end, where I'm telling you guys to subscribe, like the channel, hit the bell if you like my stuff. Essentially, this is a new way that I'm trying to see if it comes off and flows better. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, because we all know how YouTube works. And I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.
Visions of sitting high on my own gold throne, never listening criticism, I built my own.